Remember when I said I wasn't going to review any more string libraries because I have 356 of them and I'd rather step barefoot on Legos for the rest of my life? Well, Orchestral Tools was like, hold my beer. What if we made something that no one else has made before? And I was like, fuck. I'm finally back. I wanted to have this video out weeks ago, but I got really sick. Whatever is going around, 0 out of 10, do not recommend getting that. Also, I went to Beverage Warehouse to find a beer from Berlin, but they didn't have any, so Schwarzbier it is for this one. Oops. Oof, that is potent. So in this video, I'll be reviewing Berlin strings, Berlin Symphonic strings, and Berlin Sordino strings. And also a variety of layers, like at the end, we're gonna layer all of them together. And then also at the very, very end, we're gonna layer Berlin string, like all of Berlin strings, with other libraries from other developers. Because I wanna do like a sound comparison, because there's already reviews that go over tech specs and all that shit. But I mean, I post links to walkthroughs and the product pages so you can just watch those. But I really want to go into what do they actually sound like and, you know, what are the pros and cons of these libraries, yada, yada. So the idea is I'm going to make the same mock-up with all of these libraries, but, you know, I'll play through them. And so you can basically hear a direct comparison of the same piece. The piece is something I wrote in 2017 for a Chinese movie. Soundtrack is never going to be released, so I figured I might as well use that because it goes from really soft to really loud espressivo, so, you know, we can kind of get the full range of the libraries. So before we get into the actual libraries, the first thing we're obviously going to have to mention is SINE, the player that Orchestral Tools invented. So this thing, it's not going to win a beauty contest, but it doesn't have to. It just needs to work. And work it does, which should be a given, but I feel like other developers have set the bar really low. Like, they just, like, threw it in the basement. So here we are. It works. It's a player that works. I've done Klaus Family 3 with this one, and it has not crashed a single time. There were no issues. There was like a tiny bug where the mic merging didn't work. I'll get into that in a moment, but that was a super easy fix. So whatever. So, you know, it's a very simple design, very self-explanatory. You spend 5 minutes with this and you kind of know what it does. Now, what do I love about the SINE player? Other than that, it's stable and it works. It's multi-timbral, which other developers frequently skip over, and I hate it. Who doesn't want their players to be multi-timbral? Nobody. This also, the fact that they have their own player makes updates very easy and very frequent. Yes, they actually update their libraries, unlike other developers that seem to kind of throw out a version 1 and then never fix it, and then just move on to the next product. That's not Orchestral Tools. They actually fix their shit, so thank you. And so what I love is the efficiency, that it's an all-in-one player. So you log into the player with your username, password, whatever, and you have these tabs right here. And so it's all in one. So this is the one where you can get into your libraries and load patches right here. And then here you can also modify the different patches however you want them to be set up. Then it has the performance page where you can, you know, set up more stuff. Then it has the mixer page, which is where you can create your mic mix, and where it also has the fantastic merge function. So what this does is it creates a completely new sample set with the mix that you created. So instead of having to have 5 mic positions loaded to have your mix, you can just click on merge and then create just a brand new sample set with that mix. So you don't have to have, you know, so much RAM and, you know, so many samples playing at the same time. It's very resource friendly because they do have a general purge function, but like all developers, they don't have the thing that Kontakt has where you purge everything and then you play and it loads samples in real time. but only the samples you're using. They don't have that yet. I don't know if they're working on that, but no other player has that either. And even Kontakt didn't have that initially. I think Kontakt 4 also just had like a basic purge function like this. And I think it only came with Kontakt 5 that it could do like the loading samples in real time. So I'm assuming this is just very hard to do. But so they actually kept that in mind that, you know, some people work with less RAM or, you know, from slower hard drives maybe, or, you know, it's just very stressful for a machine if you have a full orchestra loaded to have all the mic positions loaded all the time. So this is a really good solution to that problem because it keeps all the resource usage down very much. And I haven't had any issues with that, except for like there was one instrument group that wouldn't merge, and there's like a little file that you can delete and then re-add the library and then it works. Anyway, they have great customer support, so if you have that issue, just reach out to them. They know the fix. Then you have this options page where you can kind of decide your controllers and everything. And then what I absolutely love is you have the store page. So what happened the other day was I was writing something and I needed a bass flute and somehow I didn't have one, or I didn't have it installed. So I just went into the store page and got the bass flute, and you can buy individual instruments, which is fantastic because if you've been in this for a little while, you have accumulated a sample library graveyard. And so, you know, nobody really wants to buy full libraries unless you're a newcomer. Of course, then you want to buy full libraries. But I'm not at a point where I want to buy like a full woodwind library just to get a bass flute. So this player makes it possible that you can just go into the instruments and be like, hey, I need that Junkie XL low brass patch or something. And then you can just buy that patch. And then it'll show up under your licenses. So this is where you have all the libraries that you own. And then you can just click on download. You can even just download specific mic positions. And once you've done the mic merging, you can also delete the other mic positions. If you're like low on hard drive space, you can just get rid of them. But also if later on you notice, oh shit, I actually did need that close mic again, you just click on it and it'll download in the background and just do its thing. But while it's doing that, you can still use the player. So it's kind of like when you start up a video game after you haven't played for a while, it reaches that point where you can play it and it will just download the rest in the background. So that's kind of how this works. So this is basically the store, the downloader, the installer, and the player in one, which is so efficient. Like, this is the future of players. It has to be. Because nobody wants to use, like, download 3 different programs to install their library. This is so efficient and so quick. When I needed that bass flute, I had it within 10 minutes. It was downloaded, installed, automatically showed up here, and I could just, you know, load it into my template and instantly use it. So that's how I want my life to be. So yeah, I haven't had any issues with this player. Like I said, I've done Klaus Family 3 with it, and I've done 3 video game tracks with it as well recently, and it has not crashed. In fact, Kontakt has crashed in that time frame, or VE Pro, one of the two. Yeah, it's very stable. I mean, I'm on Windows 10, so I can't speak for other platforms, but yeah, I have not had any problems with this. All right, so let's get into Berlin strings. Here we are. That's them. I've programmed full orchestra for this piece. The woodwinds are also Berlin woodwinds. It's still the old Kontakt version because I am too lazy to actually update and then update my template. So also it's perfectly fine and it works and I like it the way it is. So anyway, so this is a pass through the piece just with Berlin strings. Okay, so I was surprised how much I like this library because it's the oldest one. It's a fairly small ensemble, and I remember not liking it when it first came out. Either they massively improved the SINE version, because I used to use the contact version as when I was an assistant, or my taste has changed. I don't know. But I like this a lot more than I remember liking it because I didn't like that it sounded bright and kind of small at the time because it is kind of a chamber-sized orchestra, I guess, or like more from like classical era, like Beethoven-sized orchestra. But now I actually appreciate the level of detail. But also, I do remember initially, like in the contact version, there were like bumpy legatos and stuff, and I don't have that here. They must have updated this or just changed a lot of things when they ported it over into SINE because it's better than I remember. Or maybe my programming has gotten better. I don't know. I like this a lot more than I thought I would. I actually thought this would be like the one I would like the least, but it's definitely staying in my template. It obviously has this like crunchier, smaller sound that is you would get from a smaller ensemble. So if you're going for a more lush, wider sound, then this might not be the library. But yeah, I created my own mic mix, mostly relying on the Deca tree and then just mixing in the other mics a little bit. Honestly, yeah, I like it. I had no trouble programming it. There were no bumpy legatos. There were no weirdly timed things. As you can see, like all the automation data is just very smooth. I didn't have to correct anything. So I was positively surprised. There's a little bit of inconsistency overall with the negative track delays and the overall volumes, I think, between the patches. But okay, it's the oldest one, so that they get a pass on this because the other two actually don't have that. So I guess they learned from this and then did better on the other two. But yeah, once you set it up, this is what it sounds like. And it's a slightly brighter sound than some other libraries that I use. But actually, this complements the other libraries very well then. So yeah, I have no notes about this library. Like, I have not had any issues. I've also, like, this is obviously all legatos. I've also tried out the other articulations and I didn't find anything. Like, they've clearly updated this library over the years and made sure that it's as good as it can be. Okay, sound comparison. We now go into Berlin symphonic strings. Same piece, different library. All right, so this one clearly has a very different sound because it's a much larger ensemble. And when this came out, I was really interested in it because, like I said, my main gripe with Berlin strings initially was that it sounded kind of small. And so when I saw, oh, they now did like a full symphonic string section, I was like, I wish I had that library. But I didn't buy it because I already had 30 other string libraries. So I was like, you got to cut yourself off from your addiction at some point. So I was like, I'll pass on this one, but I'm actually really interested in it. So this was the first time I got to play around with it. And I thought I would like this a lot more than Berlin strings, but I don't know if my taste has changed or something. But I like this just as much. It has less detail in it, right? Because it's a much larger ensemble. So it sounds much more lush, which technically goes better with my writing style. But then I was like, well, I'm now missing a little bit of the detail that I had in Berlin strings that you only get in smaller ensembles. So then I was like, what if you layer Berlin strings and Berlin symphonic strings? Because then you get the detail and crunchiness from Berlin strings, but you get the lushness from Berlin symphonic strings. And you guys know I love to layer shit. And look, it works. Let me play it for you. And they're all programmed. They're programmed exactly the same way. Berlin symphonic strings is a little bit more consistent with volumes and negative track delay and stuff. But again, once you set it up, you set them up to work the same way. So you can just copy paste from one library into another. And I love that when developers do that. So let me play it for you, what these two libraries actually sound like together. If there are some clicks and pops, it's because my buffer size is too low. And we're just going to have to deal with it because otherwise I can't record. It's a sound, okay? It works. And they play, as you can see, they play very nicely together. There's no bumpy legato. It's well programmed. But it's also programmed similarly enough that you can literally just copy paste and it'll work together if you set up the negative track delays properly. So this is something I would definitely use because these two are actually complementing each other really well. I don't know if that was the intention, but again, I'm a layerer, so staying in my template 100%. So then we get to the library that I was the most excited about because it doesn't exist anywhere else. It's a full Sordino library. And I got really excited when I heard about it because I was like, okay, Most developers don't do that because it's expensive to make and it's such a specific thing. So what most other developers do is they record like ensemble patches, like just sustains and shorts for Sordinos, and then they kind of just publish an ensemble patch. Not orchestral tools. They were like, we're just going to go in and we're going to sample a complete full sample library with mutes on. So I got excited because I was like, I think this doesn't exist yet anywhere else. So a great way to complete the Berlin String series. And let's listen to it. It's obviously a very different sound because it has that silky muted sound, but let's take a listen. Absolutely gorgeous sound, I think. I think also it's very impressive. They recorded espressivo for this one, and it is real espressivo. In a lot of other libraries, I always feel like when they label something espressivo, it's mostly vibrato. This is, I have the entire thing set to espressivo, and it is real. They really captured that, which makes this incredibly expressive. And then also, they actually have workable portamentos, which I don't use very often because, it gets very cliche very quickly, and in most modern scores, we don't use it that much. But they sound good. Very often, portamentos don't sound particularly great in libraries because they're very hard to do. But also, they manage to time them in a way that they don't sound delayed. If you know cinematic studio strings, they also have very nice portamentos, but they're timed in a weird way where they're super delayed compared to the fast legatos. I think they fixed that in the latest update, which I haven't made yet because I can't be bothered. But that kind of was a continuous issue with that. This one doesn't have that problem. Like, I did not have to move any notes or anything when I used the portamentos compared to the fast legatos. So they're timed in a way that they're very consistent. And again, no bumpy legatos. There are some transitions that could use a little bit of smoothing out maybe. Or where I feel like the legato transitions are a little soft, maybe. So they could kind of be louder. I don't know. But overall, again, nothing wrong with the timing, nothing wrong with the programming. The automation and everything is still the same as the other libraries. You can pretty much copy paste it over. There's nothing wrong with it. Again, I also tested the shorts and everything. Timing, also again, in this one, the negative track delays and volumes are a lot more consistent than in Berlin strings because it's newer. I love it, and I've already used it extensively on my Class Family 3 score. So that's that. Obviously now we have to do like the full sandwich, okay? We have to play all of them together. Because I do think that the warmth of the Sordinos actually might add something to the rather bright Berlin strings and Berlin symphonic strings. So the fact that these are more expressive but also more mellow might actually add something nice to it. So let's listen to it. It's a vibe, y'all. And by the way, it's also all quantized. That's how you know it's a well edited and well programmed library. It sounds like this, and it's all quantized. It's a vibe. Obviously, this completely defeats the purpose of having 3 different libraries of different sizes and having the Sordinos, because all of that obviously now gets lost. But it's a sound, okay? I'm the queen of layering, and I like it, okay? Okay, so now we obviously have to do like the ultimate. Now we're going a little insane. So this is how I would have programmed it if I didn't have these libraries with my other libraries: Cinematic Strings 2, Cinematic Studio Strings, Cinestring Solo, Cinematic Studio Strings Solo. Let's play all of them together. Not gonna lie, my computer might start smoking eventually, because this is now, what, 7 string libraries? Let's hear it. Let's go nuts. Let's hear all of them together. Okay, not gonna lie. We recorded the score at Abbey Road with the London Players. It did not sound much better than this. It's 7 sample libraries, so, maybe it's overkill. My computer is making noises now. It's like, what the fuck are you doing? It could probably use a little bit more refining. Like, I'm probably going to have to adjust my EQs a little bit now, because it's a lot. But if I have a big string piece and I don't get to record, this is what I'm going to do. Now, obviously, we're going to have to talk about the negative. There isn't much negative. I'm not going to lie. Like I said, the SINE player works perfectly for me, at least. Clearly, these are very well programmed libraries, very well scripted, well edited. Yeah, they could be a little more consistent with the negative delays and stuff and the volumes. But again, they frequently update their stuff. Now I don't want them to update their stuff, though, because I've set it up like this in my template. Like, if they fix it now, then my template doesn't work anymore. Do I want them? I don't know. Anyway, but they will probably keep updating their stuff anyway and make it even better. But there's nothing particularly wrong with any of these libraries. Like, I've played around with them. Like I said, I've done the entire Klaus family movie with them. And I did not stumble upon anything that was a problem. Not with the player and not with the libraries. There is one thing that irks me. Okay, look at this. Let's go over here. So we got the Berlin Symphonic strings, and if you go to the performance page, CC2 all the way down in this library is espressivo. Then I go to Berlin strings, and I go to the performance page, and CC2 all the way down is vibrato. Okay. And then up is non-vibrato. It's kind of counterintuitive, but whatever, it's fine. I can deal with it. Then we go into the Sordino strings, and lo and behold, the CC2 up is espressivo, and down is subtle vibrato. Why is it the other way around here? And I don't think you can change it from what I can see. The fuck did you do that for? Now I copy paste from Berlin strings into Berlin Symphonic strings all as well, and then I copy from them into the Sordino strings because I want to try something out. And now I have to go into all the CC2s and change it to the other way around because it's literally the opposite way around in this one. Explain yourselves. This is not how we were raised, Germany. This is not efficient. Fix it. But honestly, this is like such a small gripe, so whatever. But why? Why are you giving me extra work? Don't do that. Don't make like a 99% perfect product and then you do this shit. What were you thinking? Nobody stopped the person designing this. Was like, hey, maybe we should keep it consistent with the other 2 libraries because, people are probably going to use all 3 of them. Anyway, whatever. They're probably going to fix it one day. Or not. Maybe they just hate us. It's fine. Anyway, this is obviously a minor gripe, considering the rest of it is quite perfect. Another thing that might be an issue for some people is that even though we do have the mic merging and all that, it's still a bit of a resource-hungry library because, it's a high-end pro library. Most of their libraries are. So, you do want like a proper hard drive to play this from, and you do want proper RAM and a proper CPU. If you're working from a really old machine, it might not be great. You might not have the best experience with it. Because it is a pro library. Like Orchestral Tools, they do put out high quality content all the time, but that has its price resource wise. And in general, their libraries are a bit pricier on the pricier end of the spectrum, which is warranted, I think. Having played with this, this is worth the price tag. But if you're a student or starting out, it might be easier to go with something else first that is a little bit cheaper and then later go over to orchestral tools or whatever. I don't know. Everyone's financial situation is different. They do have sales, and I think they also do work a lot with educational programs and stuff like that. So if you're a student, I'd definitely reach out to them and see what they can do. Again, their customer support is fantastic. And, they generally seem to be a company that not only puts out great content all the time, but also started doing these really creative projects, which I'm actually really interested in. I'm going to dive into that in a little bit. But it also seems like they're, collaborating with film scoring programs, music schools, and really want to support music education and stuff. It's a company with integrity, and I don't really have anything bad to say about them. So that is that. Anyway, try not to spend all your money, and Prost.